All right, I made. They tell us you got to make shorts to like point to your long form videos. I hope this video isn't too long, but it's going to be more than a short. Like I said, uh, people do these day in the life, and they're kind of weird. But maybe I should do one where I talk about what it's like to live outside of a large Orthodox community. Try to live to the best of my ability. I don't think I'm certainly not a chassid, and I'm not really a rebbe. That's just the name I use for this. I'm hardly Orthodox, but I try my best. At least doctrinally, I do believe I'm Orthodox, and practically, I try my best to also be Orthoprax. But we all fall short of that. So this morning, I davened Shachris already before work. A little bit, maybe running about 9 minutes late to work or so, but we'll see. Sometimes we can pick up some of that time, and certainly I'll stay late to make it up or whatever it is, but that's neither here nor there. Or take the time off, I use leave time for that. But in any event, so I'm saying Selichos after davening, which is not the normative practice, but I'll tell you, when I was a Rav in Richmond, Virginia, there was the yeshiva there, and that was their practice, was that the Selichos was said after davening. So there are those who do it. And so here I am on my way to work, and I saw this. This is from today's Selichos, according to the tradition that we switch the Selichos. And this last line of this Selicha, which comes from Rabbeinu Gershom, the Maragola, it might even be worthwhile for us to go through the whole thing, but that last line was really powerful. So it starts off, and it's interesting because this is not translated here on Sfaria. So let's just learn this Selicha, because I think it's worthwhile. So right? When I prayed it, I of course said it the proper way, but our God and God of our ancestors. Elecha Hashem ekra, I am menorah. Unto thee, O Lord, I cry, thou who art awesome and fearful. Al taster panecha b'yom tzara. I think the Maragola was writing this. He was the light of the exile, right? For those of us who are in this particular tekufa and galus, this particular epoch in our exile, and we don't know where we're holding. We're so hopeful that we're going to see the realization of our eschatology and the good part, right? But the truth is, we could have a million bad parts before we get there. We don't know. And we feel ourselves, it feels like we're in Europe in the 1930s. We know we're at the brink of a world war. It doesn't have to be. We pray and hope it won't be. And so we have to appeal and pray to God. And the biggest thing is al taster panecha b'yom tzara. Do not hide your face on the day of trouble. I'm going to say something very personal. A few weeks ago, there was a flood in Orange County, New York, Rockland County, Orange County, and I was kind of not stuck in the middle of it, but trying to maneuver. I picked up two hitchhikers who were stuck, and earlier in the day, I did something I really shouldn't have done. And I felt bad about it, and I still feel bad about it. I'm looking forward to Yom Kippur. I can Osrein and can clean myself up from that sin and all my other myriad, countless sins from this year and my whole life. And then I went through all that minor tribulation. It was much worse for other people. But whatever I went through there, being in the flood and dealing with all of that, being able to help people, but getting lost, and all different things were going on then. And I realized that the worst part of the day was the Aveira. And the rest of the day was suffering was the best part of the day, because it's God showing His love, offering Yisurim to apply some sort of a kapara, giving me suffering to attain some sort of atonement for that sin. I don't know if it's sufficient. It's there. I know Yom Kippur is sufficient. Lifnei Hashem Titaru. And I know eventually my own death, if I repent before that, also is sufficient. Hopefully won't be for a long time. Although I struggle a lot with, I'll be honest and really bear out my heart. I'm jealous that my father passed away 4 years ago, that he didn't have to see this tyranny that we're under right now, and that it looks like things are getting worse. We're things aren't so bad right now, but we're very scared. Everybody's scared that what's going to happen. What's next? What's just behind the corner? During the Great Depression, people were like, prosperity is right around the corner, right? And we don't really see that, We see kind of like what came after the Depression was the war. It's kind of where we feel like we're at right now. So, and we know that tzaddikim will say that the Holocaust, the war, was a time of Hester Panim, where God's face was hidden. But that's, on the other hand, it's not so simple to say that. I remember there was a Yid, I forget his name. He was a Holocaust survivor. He wrote books about his experiences. And he's a Gerach Chassid. I think he lived in England, and he would come to Eretz Yisrael for Yantiv, and he'd make big sudas for anybody who wanted to come to eat, especially Yom Tov Sheni. For people who were visiting from other countries, and he would speak, and I don't remember his name right now. And he said, through all of that, he never was touched physically. Like he managed to avoid any type of assault through his time in the camps. And he knew God was there with him. So is it really Hester Panim? Is it really hiding the face? If you can experience suffering as God's love, and I don't think I could do it. Like, intellectually, I could read all these books and try to grasp that, and intellectually I can hold on to something like that. But is it really true, like the Tanya says, that the moyach is shoylet al halev, that the brain controls the heart? We know it's true, but can we do it? Can we live up to it? Can we? I go crazy if I can't find the remote, and the biggest part of that is, why don't they have on the TVs now? When I was a kid, you could get up and change the channel, and even you had a cable box. There were buttons on top of the cable box. They don't give that to you anymore. If I wouldn't mind to get up and do it, or then I have an app on my phone. The app doesn't always work, and I just want to watch like a YouTube video, maybe a shir from Or Sameach or from Rabbi Weinberger or something, and or from Rabbi Bart Sadok, and I want to learn Torah. It's not just I want to watch a movie, something, and it's frustrating, and I lose it, and I get angry at my kids, and I get, and then my wife yells at me, why are you yelling at the kids, and And she's right, I shouldn't be yelling at them. And so we know intellectually the moyach is shoylet al halev, that the brain controls the heart, but you got to work on that, right? So intellectually we know, and sometimes we can feel it, that suffering is not really Hester Panu. It's not really God hiding his face, but we have to open our eyes and our hearts and our minds to understand that. And so we beg God here, Al Taster Panecha B'Yamsara. The Moragola is teaching all of us to pray, God, please don't hide your face in the day of tribulation, of trouble. B'kum aleinu b'alei me'era, people who are coming up and cursing us, are attacking us. Vivastam yachad eitza nivhara, when they gather all together with a singular foundation, with an idea to attack us, with a conspiracy to burn us away. Goizim alai doidi, va'adan melikros, ve'olenu Hashem svakos. They make a decree upon me that I cannot call out to my beloved and my Lord. You know, I'll tell you something. It struck me during Avinu Malkeinu this year, something that never struck me before. Only because I never felt like we were living in a time like this before, but we've gone through times like this in the past, and we've made it through it, most of us, or whoever's here, whoever's left. Maybe not most of us, because so many of us are gone, and we're so small. But we have one of the Avinu Malkeinus, right? We have liturgy that we say during these 10 days of awe and on fast days. And the Avinu Malkeinu Manah, it says, Cherev, Magef Manach L'seinu, right? Remove the illness, the pandemics from us, push those away, keep those away, keep those hard times far away from my door. But then I don't remember the exact lashon. It's something like, it talks about cherev, v'rav, u'mashchus, u'magefa, u'shmad, mibnei brisecha, right? Keep away. One of the things that listed there is like illness and the sword, violence and war, and pandemics, and terrorism, and all these things, and shmad from the children of your covenant, from the members of your covenant, from your people. And shmad, I remember when I was a kid, there was on Sesame Street, which one of these things doesn't belong here? Which one of these things isn't the same? Now it's time to play our game. And certain versions of the Avinu Malkeinu don't even have the word shmad, right? And I always felt like that doesn't really seem to fit with the sword and the illness and the violence and the pandemics. Why is shmad there? What does shmad mean? It means apostasy, right? So what does apostasy have to do with these other things, with these physical attacks, whether they be in war or it could be biological warfare too? Why is shmad there? And shmad in our day, growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, whatever. Early 2000s already, I was already in college. But in the 90s, I was in high school, and you thought of Shmad, you thought of missionaries, right? And, we all grew up with Tuvia Singer, and I had a teacher, Gerald Siegel, who, wrote counter-missionary books, and that was the big thing, was, the whole counter-missionary movement. And, they talked about how Shmad changed in our time, historically. Because in the old days, it was, hey, Turkamada, what do you see? You can't Turkamada anything, right? It was Turkamada who was, putting us, on the torture devices, a Meshumid himself. It was, they forced, they forced all of these, the Inquisition. I understand the Inquisition was about essentially lapsed Catholics. It wasn't attacking the Jews, but it was a lot of those were Meshumadim themselves who were forced before the Inquisition came, when the expulsion was, and you had the choice, either leave or Oshmadin, or apostatize. And they said, no, well, now, they learned, right? That's what they taught us. Like, they learned you get more bees, you get more flies with honey than with vinegar, and that the friendly, right? Save me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau. That when Esau, sometimes he acts like Esau, and sometimes he acts like your brother, and you have to be rescued from that, right? And that's what they always taught us. And I've come to the realization, and we didn't have any fear of this forced Shmad, right? Of the forced apostasy that we dealt with, in the 1490s, And if anything, the bigger fear was always the ethnic cleansing and not the religious attacks. Right, that was what we were all, because we were fresh from the Holocaust, even though there was a religious attack in the Holocaust, but it didn't matter. You could Shmad, right, and it didn't matter. You could apostatize. They're still going to kill you. Like my friend Father Kowalczyk, he talks about a priest who he knew. I think Father Shmerer was a Meshumid, right? He was an Orthodox priest who was Jewish. Was a non-Gentile, as I often say. But he was born Jewish, right? I don't know if it's true or not, but he likes to tell a story, and how saintly he was, and whatever. But the Miad Achi, we developed these archetypes based on our history. And what we don't realize is right now, the Christians and the Muslims and the Hindus and the whoever else, the Buddhists and the Sikhs and the Taoists and even some of the pagans, could be our brothers, and really be our brothers, or at least our cousins. And we don't have to give up our religion, and they're not trying to make us give up our religion. That's not where we're holding right now. That's not the Tekufa we're in this world. But we are very seriously facing the other type of Shmad that's going to attack all of us, all of our religious freedoms. I mean, I just heard this morning, we have how many millions of invaders coming into this country. The chutzpah, right? Because there were ports of entry like 20 feet away from where they're going over the border illegally. It's like I always talk about this one cowboy show I once saw when I had a praba in a shul in Brooklyn, and and they gave us an apartment to stay in for Shabbos. And before Shabbos, I turned on the television. It was this cowboy show, and there was like this guy. His son was kidnapped, so he went to go steal some money to ransom his son. And the person he was stealing from was the school where his son was, orphanage actually, because he was in prison and he just got out of prison. And the headmaster of the orphanage said, "You idiot! I would have given you this money. You just had to ask, right?" And there's like a Hasidic story like that too. Like there was like a shamus who like stole some money from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, you know who I was collecting that money for? I was collecting it for you, and now you have an avera of gezel. You have a sin of theft when this was already yours, and you just had to wait. But here it's like a brazen chutzpah, because they know legally they could go through that door, but then they'd have to do paperwork, and instead they're going illegally, and this is all by design. I don't blame them. I blame the powers that be. But this is all min hashamayim. We don't know. But what did that have to do with this here? Was that meanwhile, while that's happening, so about 10 years ago, there was a family in Germany who wanted to homeschool their children. I remember once I had a telephone interview to be the chief rabbi of Munich, Germany, and I was very shocked by because they have established religion and how it works there, and one of the biggest things is that homeschooling is illegal in Germany. So if you don't like the Jewish school that's there, that's under the government umbrella, well, tough. And every clergyman of every religion is a government employee in Germany. And that's really scary. And this Christian family in Germany came to America seeking asylum, and because they're being religiously persecuted, because they want to homeschool their children to be Christians according to their understanding. And in America, that's fine. And I seem to recall that the Obama administration refused to grant them asylum, but this seems to be like one of those like Mandela effect things. I don't know. I missed something from the story, but apparently they were living in Virginia for the last 10 years. And the Biden regime just announced that you're not welcome here anymore. You're being deported. You have to go back to Germany. So I guess they had some kind of a visa to stay here for some time, but they didn't have asylum, that they were allowed to permanently stay. And I guess the visa kept getting renewed or whatever it was, and then and now they lost that. But and like Glenn Beck said this morning, you have these millions of people who are here illegally, and yet you're concerned about this one family that is here legally and is genuinely seeking asylum, seeking religious freedom, and nope. You gotta go home. You gotta leave. You gotta go back to where your religion is going to be persecuted. And they have and that the American government has the resources for that, to send these. That was the big point that Glenn Beck made, that the video I heard this morning. Like that's your priority right now, is to send these people back. And so we come to the realization that the shmad that we have to be worried about now, this year, is not the shmad of, the Inquisition, but the new Inquisition. Oh, if you don't agree with, I don't like this word woke, but you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't buy into that orthodoxy, then you're in trouble. And it might come to the point where they start locking people up, and it might come to the point, I wouldn't put it past someone like Biden. He's going to start killing us. And when I say us, I don't mean the Jews. I mean religious people who really believe in God and really believe in whatever religion you believe, including Orthodox Jews, but also including Christians and others. Like Rabbi Bar Tzadok said in this video, we're all going to be together in this. The Christians are going to be like, and the Orthodox Jews as well. We're all, and Muslims and whoever else. We're going to be all together in this now. If this is what happens, if this is what they get away with, if we don't stop this now, I don't know how to stop it. All we can do is pray. And so they're making decrees upon me that I'm not allowed to call out to my beloved, to the Lord, to my beloved and my Lord, to the Lord of hosts. Todzi tzach v'yado. My beloved is ruddy and beautiful. Dogel mirbois. He's surrounded by these legions of angels. Devarei lahavzois v'oisei lahalos. And these wicked people are trying to decree upon us to disrespect His word. And to disrespect Him. Ha'oimrim ein l'kabel ak. Those people who are trying to shmad us, who are saying don't accept Him for a God. Not to worship Him. Not to sanctify the one who is abundant in forgiveness. You notice that that's one of the things in the left today. There's no forgiveness. There's a cancel culture. Whereas the Rebbeinu Shalom is a marvelous sloach. The Almighty is the one who is abundant in forgiving. Samarov Schusi Galeno wrote in the Tshuva, it's a very beautiful, emotional Shaila Tshuva. And he says, we say 3 times a day on the weekdays, Baruch Atah Hashem, Chanan a marvelous sloach, blessed art thou, O Lord, the gracious one, who is abundant in pardon and forgiveness. And he said, if we don't believe that, we're saying a bracha of Atala. We're taking God's name in vain. We have to believe that God is merciful, that God is forgiving. And unfortunately, society is not forgiving because it's not godly. Right? To forgive is divine. Gam lo lira ayam Elokai. And so these people are trying to tell us not to fear our awesome, my God, my awesome God. When I hear this, my heart trembles. But this is my answer to those enemies. Chalila! L'shachcha ulazvi! Chatifa selukei havi! God forbid that I should forget and abandon that seal of the God of my father. Taflalai v'diva mikaro. So they attacked me and they spoke, coming close. Tibu ma'atzli rubaso larov. I don't exactly understand how to translate this. They talk what's with me, the window that's to mix or sweet, I don't know, whatever. Yotzer kol yachid. I unify the maker of all. L'korav bemis karov. He's close to those who call upon Him in truth. Yasum valmani odeid v'oivav yisrov. He's going to help the widow and the orphan. He's going to send away the enemies. Kishama mamarai kina emu. So when those enemies When they hear my word that I speak, kulam yachad chorkim shinemo, they're all blunting their teeth. Lish lo lavos amal yademo, they're all insulting me. Oh, you think your God is so great, you think your religion is so great. Lahashmid labed miftach fasemo, to destroy, and that's that same word of shmad, of apostatize, and to erase. When I open my mouth, from the place of my desire, from the holy temple, which is God's tabernacle and dwelling place. From that place, your congregation was sent away, divorced, to every corner of the world, to every direction. Your heritage, Jewish people, they're embarrassed and they're trapped, they're chained. But we have our eyes looking for that old help. Sama paneha l'tshuva l'sfila. So she set her face for repentance and for prayer. Seder avoseh k'mikedem tchila. The liturgy, the order that her ancestors had in the old days, in the beginning. Arich safa orala b'goyla, batza la b'gola. In this exile, she opened up her lips. In this suffering, alecha mashleches yahav chalkala, and she cast her burden on the Lord that He should feed her. So we say, please turn to the prayers of your servant. Rescue them and save them in thy abundant mercy. Command the salvation of the seed of thy saints. That it should go out an open way to the place of your house, to the temple. And then this part that I mentioned earlier in the short. What is our prayer to God in this time that we're so worried about this potential shmad? And the apostasy that they're trying to take us away from God and from religion and from just basic human decency altogether, and to make us all go into these ways of evil. But there's going to be this big havdalah, the separation between the good and the evil. As some other religions say, between the sheep and the goats, between the wheat and the tares. And we've got to be from the sheep. We've got to be from the wheat. It doesn't matter what religion you are. What matters is, are you living the right, good life? And so much of us, even religious people, aren't, including myself. We got to do tshuva. We got to make that statement that now we're going to do the right thing. We're not going to play these games anymore. But we have to appeal to God that He's going to be the one who could take care of all this. And so we say, Kanei l'shimcha imloy l'ma'anenu. Be zealous for thy name, if not for our sake. Because maybe we're not worthy for all this, but we know, your name is on the line here. Meaning to say, look at, the whole world is turning their backs on you. You can open up all the windows, turn on all the lights, and show the truth, God. You can bring Mashiach right now, and bring the Hiskalos Kvod Shammai, and bring the revelation of the glory of heaven that we've been waiting for, really since creation. And do it for your name, if not for our sake. Kapseinu l'mancha ufadenu. So bring us all back together. Bring us all back together, and gather the exiles for your sake, like it says in the book of Ezekiel. and rescue us. Rishoyim pen yormoi aye Elokeinu, lest the wicked say, where is our God? Meaning, and it's interesting, it doesn't say, lest they say, where is their God? Where is our God? Because if you remember, so many people after the Holocaust, they're like, oh, where was God? Where was God? We can't go through that again. God, you saw it happen. You saw how many people lost faith after the last Holocaust. We can't have another one. For your sake, we can't have another one because we're too weak. Those were much stronger people, and so many of them lost faith. What do you expect from us? And we're wicked, and we don't want to say, where is our God? We don't want to lose our faith. We're trying so hard to do what's right and to be good, and it's so difficult in this time. So for your sake, God, you have to do this. So to put an end of this apostasy, Rivam Rivakum Lagonenu, fight their battle, God, and come up to be their shield. And you know what? We say every day in the davening, we call God Magen Avraham, the shield of Abraham. Abraham was the first father in faith. So when we say Baruch Atah Hashem Magen Avraham, that God is the shield of Abraham, it means that Avram Avinu in us, that faith in us, that's inside of us, that little Abraham that's in us. God, please be a shield of that Abraham in us, that we should be able to keep the faith. And if your plan is that things go in the difficult way, if it's Be'ita instead of Achishena, if it's in its time instead of being sped up, help us to keep the faith through that. And that we should know that this is all part of your plan, and that this is an expression of your love. And at least that do for your sake. Because we can't do it on our own. We need you, God, to open our hearts, to help us and to protect us, so we don't give ourselves away to the sides of evil. Those who made it through here, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment if you enjoyed this content. And we'll see you later. God bless.